Hi guys, Mike here. So several years ago I took this old junker bandsaw, 1939-ish Doall bandsaw, and refurbished it and put it back into service. And I had a lot of things I had to do to fix it up to get it to running right. One of the problems was in the transmission. Two of the gears were totally junk. So I made two gears, actually a pinion and a gear, and installed it in the bandsaw, and it kind of worked out, but I could tell it was running tight, so I must have set my gears up a little bit on the stiff side. There's no adjustment in the transmission. It's the gear centers have fixed locations, so you have to pretty much nail the tooth dimensions on the gears. Well, I must have missed it. It ran a little tight. I wasn't happy with it. Took the transmission back out of it, and I dressed the wheel on the surface grinder, set my index head up on the surface grinder, and I ground the gears. And when I did, I made a mistake. And I'll explain to you later how that happened. Not making any excuses, it's my fault. But as I indexed this around and ground the gears, a few thousandths off the gear teeth, I missed a couple of holes on my division plate. And consequently, as I indexed around at the end of it, some of the gear teeth were a little bit on the thin side. So when I put this back together, you can tell the saw is surging. It kind of goes rrr, rrr, rrr. And I'm afraid that with these teeth, out of whack the way they are, I'm afraid that eventually one or two of these teeth will fail. And if it does, you can imagine what will happen inside that transmission. It'll just eat the rest of the gears up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new gear. I've got the steel for it now. It's made out of 4140. I'll cut the gear, hopefully to the proper tooth dimension, and then I'll send it to Davenport, Iowa to have it heat treated and reinstall it. Hopefully I'll get it right this time. But anyway, that's the purpose of this video. I'm going to cut this gear, and I'm going to take you along if you want to go. And I'll talk a little bit about the way I do the dimensioning on setting up the dividing head and so forth. So with that said, I think we'll go ahead and get started. This is the little dividing head that I'll use, and in setting this up, I'll rotate this head around to a horizontal position. I'll take the chuck off, and I'll put a center in it instead, and I'll use that in conjunction with a tailstock. And this is the little homemade arbor I made, nothing special here. The gear slips on here, tighten it down with a nut, and a little homemade dog I made out of scrap, and it'll run between the centers. But to set this up for the right amount of divisions, you have to pick the correct plate. There's 3 plates that normally come with a set, and you probably can't see it from your position here, but each row on this plate is marked with the number of holes in that row, and that's the secret to getting the right divisions, to use the right plate with the right number of holes in that row. And you can see they're labeled here. Well, I think you can see, maybe you can't. They're stamped in here as far as how many holes are in each row. And so to pick the right plate, you just have to set up a little fraction, and I'll show you the shortcut method to this. You can get the this information out of the machinery handbook, and there are several good books on how to select the right plate for the right number of divisions. but I'll show you the shortcut method, and I won't get into the mathematical logic behind this, but I'll just show you, and I think you'll find it pretty simple. So I got my notepad here, and I'll direct the camera in that position, and I'll show you how I set that up. Each dividing head normally has a set of 3 plates that come with it, and each plate has a row of holes in it, and so what we have to do is we have to pick the proper plate first of all. Also, each dividing head has a gear ratio. My gear ratio happens to be 40. So let's set up a fraction here. So as the numerator, my gear ratio of 40 goes there, and the denominator is the number of divisions you want to make. In my case, I want 46 teeth, so 46 goes on the bottom. Then you reduce it down. 40 divided by, let's say, 2 is 20. And 46 divided by 2 is 23. So what that means is we need a plate that has a row of holes of 23. Holes in row. And each time we index the dividing head, we advance it 20 holes on a 23 hole plate. So this is the advance, and that's really about all there is to it. And you can find this information in other books, like the Machinery Handbook, and there's a lot of other books that have this particular information. Some index plates, if you still have the original documentation that came with them, they'll have some instructions on how to set this up. But this is how I do it. It always works. And I hope that makes sense to you. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you. And so that's all there is to that. So the example I showed on picking out the proper plate and the proper number of holes in a row for a particular amount of divisions on your dividing head was a pretty easy example, and it's an example that I used back when I rebuilt the Doall bandsaw and I made the gears. So since I showed that example, I wanted to show what happens when you come out with a division number that's turns out to be an improper fraction, and how do you reduce that down. So I'll show you an example that I used back when I was rebuilding this Doall bandsaw, and this happened to be for an 11 tooth gear. So we need 11 divisions, and again, our dividing head is 40-to-1 gear ratio, and we want 11 teeth. So the way we do that is 11 goes into 40 3 times, and with a remainder of, well, actually that's 33. 40 minus 33 is 7. So that's 3 7/11. So you could go 3 complete turns of the handle on an 11 row plate and advance it 7 holes at a time. But we don't have a plate that has 11 holes in a row, so we have to go further. We have to try to go further so that we can find out if we do have a plate that will handle this. So we know to get our divisions we have to go 3 complete turns, so we'll just move that over. And 2 times 7 is 14, and 2 times 11 is 22, so we could go 3 complete turns on a 22 row hole plate. That's 22 holes in a row on a plate, and advance at 14 holes at a time, 3 turns and advance plus 14 hole advance. So we don't have a 22 hole plate, so let's go a little further. So now we go, we know that we know that we have to go 3 complete turns. So 3 times 7 is 21, and 3 times 11 is 33. And we do have a plate that has 33 holes in a row, so we'll use that plate. So we'll use that plate and we'll go 3 complete turns plus advance 21 holes. And that's how you get 11 divisions. So I hope that makes sense. If you got any questions, you can leave them in the comments. So the other thing is I have prepared my gear blank, and I've run into a little quandary here. And that is, I ordered a piece of 4140 annealed from Metals Supermarket. We have one locally. We have one on the southwest side of Cedar Rapids here. First time I've ordered steel from them, and I know I ordered annealed 4140, but if you notice the way this turned, this is quite hard. I turned this with carbide, which, you know, was no problem to do that, but I'm in a quandary. I've got one set of high-speed steel gear tooth cutters, and I'm just not sure that they're going to hold up with this hardness level on this piece of steel. So my quandary is whether I have to send this off and incur the expense of having it annealed before I go to work on it. And also this gets a keyway in the middle too. I've already broken one broach out of my broach set, and I had to replace that. Those are expensive. So, if you're wondering what this notch is, that's on the actual print. And I suspect that in the gear case that there is a rib or a support rib inside there that the edge of this gear comes close to, so that this is a little extra clearance for that. And so why I think that this is not annealed is because you see where it turned and it's so shiny, and then towards the middle it cut quite freely. You can see it's a different color and a different texture. Same thing with this side. So it's pretty much soft right in here, but out here it's pretty hard. I don't have a Rockwell tester. I wish I had one, but I don't. I'd like to see this down in the area of 20 on the Rockwell C scale in order to use high-speed steel on it, but yeah, I don't think it is. I don't know of anybody that has a Rockwell tester. I think I'm going to probably end up sending this off to a heat treat company and having them anneal this, send it back to me so I can cut the teeth in the keyway, and then I'll send it back to them to have it hardened. So shoot, I'm probably going to be into this thing $200 or $300 more before it's all said and done. So there you have it. So I'll keep you posted on what I decide to do on this. Like I say, I've only got one set of gear cutters, and if I ruin that one, there's 8 gear cutters in a set. So if I ruin that one, then I'm gonna have to buy a whole new set, because I don't think I can buy it individually. So there you have it. So stay tuned for the next one.